Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
All right, here we are today with Garima.
Oh, hey.
All right, AI, we want you to do a nice transcription of this mess meeting after we're done. Um, oh, God, I've got so many presentations. I don't know let me walk you through the one I put together for Republic a couple weeks ago. Okay, so we went covered a bunch of roadmaps on robotics and stuff like that, and so um, let's start here, right? So this is sort of the starting point for Navigator,
Mhm.
this product that we want to release, right?
Mhm.
And so I've probably talked to, so one thing is we've got two sales engineers
Mhm.
and a bunch of deployment engineers.
Mhm.
And between all of them, we've probably visited about 250 to 300 plants at this point.
Okay.
So
Over.
over course of the last 4 years.
Okay.
Okay, so we keep this data set, and you're welcome to take a look at it at any point.
Mhm.
But if you go to our Confluence page, let's just go. So, so every plant that we go to, we
Mhm.
keep a record of it here. So you
Mhm.
can see like, the customer discovery.
Mhm.
So all of these are different plants. And we only started doing this a little bit over a year. We've got a bunch from the past
Okay.
that we've gone to. So you can find customer contacts, description of the facility, the types of machines that they have there, what their labor rates are, and a map of their facility and kind of a detailed breakdown of how materials flow around in the map.
Uh-huh.
So I ask our sales engineers to create this for every plant that we go to. So we have a
Mhm.
record of it. They could
Mhm.
take data on the different lines.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
take scans. So if you go to the Google folder, there'll be videos and scans of all of the different lines. So we've been to a
Mhm.
bunch of these
This
facilities,
is
right?
really
So
cool.
so
250 of these.
yeah, like
Mhm.
so, these are the more recent ones, but
Mhm.
all of them should have similar, like information structured in a similar way. And I've had them in the recent past, like
Mhm.
like 6 months, starting 6 months, develop this let's see, develop this flow map. So
Mhm.
different sales engineers kind of record it differently, but I wanna get a catalog of how these plants are structured, and you kind of start to see some patterns in how these places are designed, right?
Mhm.
So we have a good sense of that. And I've talked to probably, dozens and dozens of these operators, and I've kind of put n notes on like what's important, what drives value for these plants,
Mhm.
um, that the AI can solve
Okay.
for them, right?
Mhm.
And at the top of the list is really increased throughput and utilization. So if you think of these plants, the primary job of these plants are to move material from the input to the output,
Mhm.
right? If they
Mhm.
stop moving material,
They're losing
they're
money.
they're losing money, and then they have to reprocess the material over the weekend because the inbound material doesn't stop. Like,
Uh-huh.
people's garbage and recycling are collected every
Mhm.
day. Just, you can just think of this black box as moving
Yeah.
material, taking unsorted material, sorting it out,
Mhm.
right? And like just round numbers,
Mhm.
like an average plant is about a 400 ton per day plant. And a
Mhm.
400 ton per day plant roughly makes about $20 million in revenue
Per year.
per year, right?
400 times 20 minutes. Okay.
400
Mhm.
tons per day.
Okay. Per day.
You can
Mhm.
think of like 40 tons per hour. Like over two shifts, they'll probably run for like 10 to 12 hours because there's
Mhm.
some
Mhm.
maintenance time and all of that
Mhm.
involved, right? Um, so and that $20 million of revenue, you can break it up into two portions. One is tipping fees.
Mhm.
So what they collect from people like you and
Mhm.
me to
Mhm.
process the recyclable. So 10 million of that comes from tipping fees, and
Mhm.
another 10 million of that comes from selling the recycled products
Into the
into the
commodity.
commodities
Mhm.
market. So it's not quite half-half,
Mhm.
but just round numbers for your benefit, let's
Yeah.
call it half-half, right?
Okay.
And the commodity price fluctuates a lot more.
Okay.
So in the market is very unstable.
Yeah.
this tipping fee portion is very stable, right? They get a monthly
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. From
Now,
ours.
So 10 million is coming from tipping fees,
Mhm.
and they have to turn business away
Mhm.
because they're maxed out in their capacity, right?
Oh.
Because the plant was designed for a certain amount of tons per day. And
Got it.
so the only way that they can get more revenue on the stable revenue is they build
to
another
pull
plant
the-
or
Oh.
like increase the throughput, right?
The truth. Right.
And we can see from our data, based on our experiences, these belts are underutilized. So at times, it's very start and stop kind of a process. So it's very lumpy. And so materials come, materials get processed, but then there's a bunch of time when the belt is idle. So there's two problems with that. One is the material is not evenly spread out. So if it was evenly spread out, you could process it better, right? These separation equipment are designed so that you get a nice even flow of material input. Second is if you distribute it nice and even, there's actually more capacity you can push through it. So there's 20, 30, 40% more capacity, which can be out of that 10 million, another 2, 3, $4 million worth of
Can be
business.
added.
Right. So that's the highest, that's the holy grail, is if we can make a system that load balances these plants and actually allows you to go get more commercial business. So for example, a plant here could go to, the Amazon warehouse and say, hey, I'll take your recyclables, charge me for that, and I can process it in my thing. Like, that's a new business that they could go get, right? So that's from a value standpoint, that's the highest.
Okay. For an existing MRF.
For an existing
Okay.
mark, yeah. So think the next one is everything to do with downtime and maintenance, right? So these, again, shutting these plants down means you have to run it over the weekend. You have to hire, you have to pay people overtime.
Yeah.
And like a simple thing like a belt going down puts them down for like an entire half of a day. Right. So if they can avoid those kinds of situations, they allows them to not have to pay extra to recirculate this material, but then also allows them to reduce their inventory costs because they have to stack inventory of belts and motors and drives and all these things, which they don't have to do if we can help them plan their maintenance cycle better, right? So that's the second big bucket. I would say these two are we can actually make them or save them in the order of millions of dollars. Okay, this one, let's say that if we did this properly, we can save an average plant help them make $2-3 more million. We can save an average plant $1 million.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's making that saving.
Yeah.
So that's a net plus.
The third is, what I thought would be the highest value, but it's not, is helping them make their processes better, helping them recover more and recover cleanly.
Okay.
Right. So all this improving their sortation process. That will allow them to sell the material at a higher price.
Okay.
Right. But it does, this is in the hundreds of thousands. So we put vision systems in what they call last chance lines.
Okay.
And we can tell how much material is going to landfill. And there's a pretty nice, I don't know if I won't be able to find it right now, but I've kind of looked at this correlation thing. It almost looks like if I plot tons per day, how much material they're processing and how much they're losing, it's like almost a straight line with a really nice correlation. So which means, and roughly the equation is for, let me think about every 100 tons per day, they're losing $2,000 per ton. So a plant that processes 100 tons per day are losing $200,000 per year. A plant that processes 400 tons per day is losing $800,000 per year. So if let's say an average plant that's processing 400 tons per day are losing $800,000 of material. So if I can help them recover half of that, I can help them recover $400,000 of that. So the value here is about
in the sales presentation.
Is you
In one of
could be
the first few slides. Yeah.
maybe one of the case studies or something like that. Yeah. So it's basically helping them recover more and selling it at a higher value, right? And then the third is workflow oriented, right? So I can help you audit this stream so that you can plan your improvements. You can report from like your compliance to your contracts. I can help you track your performance from one shift to another. I can help you track performance from one plant to another. These are all going to improve your overall efficiency of your plant and your workflow and how you go and manage. So these are sort of the places. So I would say, hundreds of thousands, hundreds to $500,000,
Okay.
million to 2 to 5 million per plant.
Okay.
If I really had a full control of this plant,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
So
So 2 to 5,
one,
one,
1 to 2,
uh,
500 to
100,
1, right? 500, let's say 500,000 to $1 million.
uh-huh.
Let's say, this,
800K,
yeah,
a
that's
million, say.
yeah.
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of value here,
Right.
right? So how do we deliver this value? So, this is sort of the picture of how we want to um, kind of deliver this sort of a solution, right? So these numbers are sort of vision systems and sensors located throughout the plant. And so these vision AI is looking at, belt metrics, looking at performance on metrics on the belt, looking at maintenance, looking at throughput, looking at utilization, and I'm tracking all the key areas that I want to track in a plant. So the initial key area is where the inbound material is coming, so I can look at inbound volume. I can look at are you processing commercial load or residential load? I can look at is it wet because it was raining outside, so I have to process that material differently. Am I getting too much cardboard, which might jam up my equipment? Like there's a whole bunch of sort of inbound metric that I can process, right? And then at each of these steps, I can, so, I think, I don't know if I've gone through a Murph flow map. These are just a cartoon version of this, but essentially, this, I mean, I don't know which one, let's say waste emission or something. So what you have typically a tip floor, a place where they dump everything. They have a pre-sort where they take out bags and
Okay.
like
Things you don't want.
things that you don't want that might jam up the conveyor. The first thing that they do typically is it's OCC is old corrugated cardboard. So they remove the cardboard from it because the cardboard is easy to sell. Plus, it jams up the equipment upstream. So they have a screen that removes the cardboard. And then, like in this case, there's also smaller materials, glass materials get crushed. So cardboard gets removed and it goes probably into a drum and it crushes the glass, so the glass gets removed.
Okay.
And then there's a magnet and all the magnetic stuff gets removed, right?
Okay.
And then there's a 2D, 3D screen. So all the remaining 2D material like paper, film, plastics, those things, there's a screen that separates that from like containers and bottles and cans and things like that. So there's a 2D material sort of goes up the stream, 3D material tumbles down and goes to a different direction, right? Then they've got series of optical sorters that isolate different commodities. So in this case, they're first isolating PET. So an optical sorter is essentially an IR camera that's looking at the belt and understanding the composition of that object. And then there's little air jets, literally there are little air jets that push air. And then let's say this is a PET and this is an aluminum can. You want the PET to go here and you want the aluminum can to drop down. You don't push this with air, so this just falls down. And then when the PET ball comes, like a little puff of air comes and it'll push it over the boundary, so that now you got a separation of the different 3D materials, right? So it's like that. And then they have what's called an eddy current separator, which separates aluminum from this thing. So ultimately, all of these get separated into different bunkers, right?
Okay.
But before you do that, you need to quality control that because these separation techniques are very crude. There's a lot of contamination, so there's people just moving, and that's where our robots come in, right?
Okay. So that's what I was wondering, like, I thought people did a lot of this, but it seems as if a lot of it
So the first separation is these pieces of equipment, and then these pieces of equipment are generally not good enough, so you need to apply people. So the idea here is that we can place vision systems before and after a lot of these different processes and at the quality control. And now I have very precise information about that process. What came in, how did that processing cell do, and what went out. So what the recovery rates were, what the purity rates were, how fast you're processing, where you the utilization of that
Mhm, mhm,
equipment, was it consistent between
mhm,
shift to
mhm,
shift, between time
mhm,
to time? There's a whole bunch of process level parameters that we can come up with.
uh-huh.
And then ultimately they go either to landfill,
Okay.
so we can put a vision system to see what's going to landfill,
Uh-huh.
or go to a baler,
Right.
and we can you can say, okay, how much, how much material were you selling, and
Mhm,
what
mhm.
was the quality of the material that you're selling, right?
Okay.
So we do this today, which is
Mhm.
essentially dashboards. We just create dashboards today,
Okay.
right? And we're doing it with one or two vision systems. But we have a whole bunch of other things that we can do.
Uh-huh.
But it's also not easy to, like the questions that somebody, an operator has today might be very different from the questions that they have a month from now, right?
Mhm,
But because these guys, these operators are not like, they don't have BI people or analysts
mhm,
sitting there looking at data and telling them how to improve things. They're kind
mhm,
of, their hands are behind their backs,
mhm,
right? These guys are like operators,
mhm, mhm.
like very hardcore meat and potato
Yeah.
operators. What we're going to give them is an AI agent that they
Mhm,
can just talk to
mhm,
talk about how their data is, versus
mhm,
like, having to come up with, okay, like let me go and give this data set to some analyst who's going to
mhm.
analyze how my performance is
Sure,
and
sure.
help me. Yeah,
Yeah.
all these things. So it's just like, hey, I can just do this through all of these,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
these.
And when you say talk to, do you mean actual like vocal?
No, I mean like
Yeah.
you can, you
Okay.
can chat with it, just like so. I think we got a bunch of. I can show you some demos. So
Yeah.
basically, we've got a connector to their data set, and they can just go to Claude or whichever LLM they want. They can say, how's my line today? Can
Uh-huh.
you build me a dashboard? How much am I losing? If I'm losing this much, where am I losing it? Can you help me pinpoint which piece of equipment I need to automate?
Mhm,
What parameters should I automate? Like they can just go in and kind of do all of that stuff,
mhm,
right? And that's sort of, we're branding this part the navigator, but
mhm,
essentially we're going to have agents monitoring each of these points, not all of them, but each of these, lot of these points. A lot of our remote operations center is, we're going to, all of the things that we're doing manually, we're going to have agents do that as well, right?
mhm.
So everything is going to have this multi-agent architecture, and then there's going to be a data agent that they can basically interact with that whole system.
Okay.
Right? So now your whole plant is run, or at least you're running the plant with an AI
Mhm.
assistant.
And the blue items are the net new features?
No, so the blue items are main uh, components of the solution, right?
Mhm,
So, I can, based on what I'm seeing, I can go and set notifications. We've got a whole alerts and alarming engine that allows them to kind of set up how they want to receive notifications.
mhm,
We've got a web dashboard that they can go and customize the view of. They can create new visualizations or pick from existing, kind of
mhm,
pre-configured visualization. We're going to integrate with, the different pieces of equipment and control systems,
uh-huh.
so that they can automate a lot of the tasks, the machinery itself.
Mhm,
And then we're going to have kind of a predictive maintenance engine on the processes that we're monitoring.
mhm,
Um, and all of these are sort of the four big components of the
mhm.
solution, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you want to call it components of the solution, you want to call it, feature sets, but
Yeah.
it's essentially sort of the
The
main
things
main
they,
main components that it does, right?
okay.
Uh, they're gonna have an interface like this, where the main interface is the chat interface. They're just talking to the data. They can create artifacts, so they can create like dashboards, or they can create certain control sequences. They can look at different They can, well, KPIs on this side, but essentially all the operational view of
Mhm,
something that
mhm.
they're interested in, they can save those as artifacts on the left hand side, right? So for
Okay.
example, here, belt loading. So I'm really interested in belt loading. Let me create an artifact for belt loading, so
Mhm,
it's always there and you can always look at it the same way. Because one of the problems with this AI interfaces is every time you ask it to do something, it does it slightly differently, right?
mhm,
We're going to allow them to save artifacts that it just gets populated the
mhm.
next time they want to see it.
Okay.
And these are all things that we can create a bunch of them, but they can create themselves. Like, for example, like a material audit artifact. So it's like, hey, can you go, do an audit, put it in this format? I want to see
Mhm,
it like that, right?
mhm.
So basically, everything that they create here, they can save onto here. And then there's going to be KPIs and alerts. So this is sort of your artifact panel, this is your chat panel, and this is I call it an attention panel, but things that you need to pay attention to,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
KPIs, alerts, and that's going to be the user interface versus today it's like a dashboard.
Okay.
Which is fairly static. I mean, it updates every 15 minutes or whatever, but like if you want to ask it different questions, you really can't, right? Like you're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of the over the how we're gonna position the solution to the recycling customers. How we're talking to them about is different levels of integration, right? Actually, I've updated some of this, so maybe I can pull it from here. So how we're kind of rolling these features out is integrations at what I'm calling line level, process level, or plant level.
Okay.
Because one of the things is none of these plants really are at a place where they are ready to run the plant digitally using AI. They're just not, right? Like we can talk about it with them, but they don't have a vision of what it all means. They don't know how they're going to implement. So most of the conversations are going to be around that line level.
Okay.
So let me put a vision system and integrate data into the belt controls and get, what can I do just with one vision system, maybe a couple of vision systems? Let me start out that way. And so we're sort of, we've got a set of features that if you integrate at just the line level, you can do. And primarily those are sort of seeing and acting on what you're seeing, right? The next step is these plants operate multiple processes. So if I just take this as a simplified view, there's one process, two process, three, four. There's dozens of processes running in the plant, right? I can look at it at the process level. So if I have vision systems before and after, and I have sensors deployed in that, I can look at it from a process level. If I have a collection of lines and processes, then I can really look at it at the entire plant level, right? So from a feature standpoint, here's sort of the basic set of features that we are delivering at each of the different levels. So, kind of going back to our four different, value drivers.
Okay.
So on the audit and tracking, if you're monitoring things at the line level, I can give you an audit of the material. I can give you mass estimates of that line. I can
Now, RecycleOS AI is the same as Navigator?
Yeah, so we haven't. So right now, we haven't launched Navigator yet. So I'm not using that name like Navigator. We're just using it internally.
Got it.
Yeah, but when we launch it in that July time, then we'll go out with it. So right now I'm just calling it because I still need to talk about it with customers and things like that. So I'm just calling it Recycle AI, right? Because I just
gone through this presentation.
Have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
you had put it in my Dropbox, and I thought this was the presentation for the current product.
Yeah. No, so I did. So this is like kind of a little bit future looking, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Navigator.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So and then if I say, okay, I can do the same, I can audit performance at a process level. If I have all lines and all processes covered, I can do a full mass balancing picture of the plant. Right. And that's very important, right? Like, so for example, a plant was built today. Operating today was probably built 10 years ago or 15 years ago. During that time, the 4 or 5 commodities that they were interested in processing, that's probably evolved into 10 or 15 commodities today. And the priority of which commodity they wanted to process has already changed. So like they don't have an idea of, let's say they designed this plant with capturing aluminum cans and PET bottles, let's just for simplistic sake. They kind of know how those materials flow around the plant. But if they said, hey, I wanted to also capture HDP, which is like a different type of a plastic, they don't know exactly how much HDP they're losing and where it's going, right? So I can help them create this full picture of that.
Okay.
If I'm optimizing recovery at a line level, I can tell you how much opportunity there is in this line. But if I put it at the process level, I can actually, optimize that equipment for you, right? Instead of just telling you.
Yeah.
And if I do it at the plant level, I can have, I know everything about like what you're capturing and what your trends are and how much you're going to be capturing and what's going to cost you to capture that material, right? From a maintenance standpoint, I can tell you belts and motor failures. At a process, I can tell you at the equipment level. And if you know all of that, then you can start doing proactive and predictive maintenance plans. And same with utilization, how much I can tell you what much utilized a single line is. If it's going through a particular machine, I can tell you how well that machine is being utilized. But the holy grail is I want to balance, because this is a load balancing problem, right? One belt always leads to another belt, which leads to another belt. So if I put more material here, you're probably going to get a jam here if you don't do anything else. So I need to have it at all places, and I can give you a full, flow optimization, right? So what we want to start selling right now is this.
Okay.
Right. And I think, by the June timeframe, we'll be able to start selling this. Right. This is sort of creating a a a vision in the minds of the operators that, hey, you really can be operating at this level. Right?
This is not L1, L2, L3.
No, L1, L2, L3 is a little bit different.
Got it. So all of this is Navigator. This is probably the first release.
Yeah.
This is a couple of months later,
Yeah.
and then the reason why you're spacing it out like this is you want to teach them incrementally.
Well, the reason is we can only do so much at a given time, right? So we have to kind of prioritize what we work on too.
Okay.
And it fits with, I think, how we're gonna sell it, right? Like if I go to a operator and say, hey, I'm gonna do this for you, I think it's like too grandiose for them. It's like, I'm not ready for this. Prove it to me first that you can do it at a lower level. Give me 3 or 4 months of experience with that. Show me how you can, So it's like, I don't, I'm not going to be able to sell this today anyway to you. But I would be able to sell this to you today, right?
Understood. So that's release 1, that's release 2, and they load on top of each other.
They load on top of each other. Plus, we're already working on, all of these, right? So we have a mass balancing module. We just don't have data to populate it so that it's really useful. But we have this module, for example, right? So, and then from an agent standpoint, these are different, the vision AI can capture a lot of different things, right? We have to parameterize what it's capturing. So these are sort of we're parameterizing the data coming out of the vision AI. And then what actions we're allowing it to take or recommend. We're not allowing it to take any actions initially, but recommend the actions. And what it has control of. So it actually can control certain things, right? And so initially it's not going to control anything, but over time it can control setting priorities, setting presets, controlling the individual data points that are as part of the equipment control systems. And you can do sort of the same at the plant level, right? So all of this work that we do on the robotics side, which is right now, the back end monitoring is semi-automated. So what that means is, all of these robotics and vision sensors are sending data and telematics into our ROC, our remote operations center. And then we have rules around, okay, like if we're seeing certain trends or if the performance levels are not being hit, or if there's maintenance issues, then it flags for an operator to come in, take a look, solve the problem, or if they need to connect with the customer, right? And like to solve the problem.
I see. So
all of that we're going to turn into an agent.
guys are doing the fixing.
Our guys are doing the fixing. Yeah.
And then if they need to, then they'll call the customer.
But essentially, I can just automate all of this with these agents, right?
Okay.
So now, we're going to use those 10 people for sort of something else, but we're probably not going to have to hire any more people to sort of do that, right? Because we've got a team of like 10 people in India doing that right now, right? And so the agents are going to be able to do all of that for us. So anyway, I think that answers some of your questions around like what's the value and where do we want to
understand the features.
Yeah, we can turn to that, but I wanted to share with you that first. So that's a nice picture.
Yeah, this is I believe
Is this your picture?
It's not my picture. This looks like Thailand, the Golden Temple. Let's see what it is.
Lima, Peru.
Okay, then it's a different place.
So do you want to do that here, the thing that you're thinking about, or
actually, why don't you go through your whole flow, and then I will analyze it. I'll flesh out what I've got going, and then it'll be far more ready for your review.
Okay, so where were we? I think that's all I had in this presentation. Then I get into the robotic side of things. So I think I covered what I wanted to come out of that. Yeah.
Then let's take a look at some of the questions I had.
Okay.
So I think I got features and benefits. I'll glean that off of there. So target company. So Gemini gave me this. I went through it, corrected a little bit, but I also saw the Claude thing that you
Yeah.
had. So Gemini gave me these four, and Claude had given you. Thought I had it open. So I was trying to figure out which one to go with. Um,
Yeah. So what I
so,
wanted to do here was give you kind of a little bit more um, narrowed down view of the type of sectors that we want to go after.
uh-huh.
So I kind of like guided it towards the ones that I wanted to talk about, right?
Okay.
I don't know that I agree with how they're prioritizing it,
Uh-huh.
but in terms of the overall,
Mhm.
these are the types of sectors and then the applications within the sectors
Okay.
that we want to address, right? Now there's two parts of this. So for July,
Uh-huh.
when we launch it,
Yeah.
it's going to be purely just focused on the recycling market, right?
Okay. So we're
Yeah.
not then concerned
Yeah.
about food
Yeah. So I
and
think when
water.
we do a pitch deck for um Series B investors, we
Yeah.
need to touch on this as sort of the roadmap
Uh-huh.
for our GTM,
Got
right?
it.
So I
Okay.
think we don't
So,
from your document that you're creating right now,
yeah.
I don't think we need to go into all these different sectors. We should talk
Okay.
about some of the
Recycling.
customer dynamics in recycling. So let's see what it says in the recycling side. I know one of the things is
This one.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's more I mean it's very high level, but so let's go back to your document. Okay. So targets, right?
You're saying stick to this.
Yeah, let's stick to that.
Okay.
I think that if I had to sort of create a playbook for our go-to-market, it would essentially be sticking with the what we call the enterprises and the mid-markets, right? I wouldn't go and try to sell this into small um, facilities, right?
Okay.
Facility operators.
Okay.
And I'd probably start with the enterprises, and
Okay.
I'd probably start at a higher level
Mhm.
than the guy who's in charge of running the plant, right? Like I'd probably,
Mhm.
instead of an operations manager
Lowest
who
figure
who
dollar
had
level.
who I'd probably target in the robotics side, here
Mhm.
I'd target the owner, the GM,
Okay.
maybe sort of the sort of the higher levels of operations folks for
Okay.
this
Okay. So it's sort
solution,
of
right?
not even CFO, the CEO, perhaps.
Yeah, like CEO,
Just the
owner,
exco.
GM,
Mhm.
something like that, right?
Who's responsible for
Yeah,
P&L?
yeah,
Okay, cool. All right, so that's cool. Then differentiators. So we talked about Glacier, Gray Parrot, we talked about
yeah.
AMP, we talked a little bit about Light and Foxglove. I also saw, I mean, NVIDIA is making a big splash and noise around their robotics. Um, and it wasn't completely clear to me. Um, so the way I'm thinking of this is, say we are going out with Navigator to recycling companies, and they've been hearing about NVIDIA from everywhere. So do we have to address that, or is it
Not
clear that NVIDIA is not?
not to the recycling companies, right? So
Okay.
again, if we're doing just the product launch for targeting the recycling folks, I think we have to differentiate between Glacier, Gray Parrot, maybe AMP, and maybe Visia is another one, right?
Okay.
The rest of the like the recycling companies don't really, interact with any of these other companies, right?
Okay. So we don't have to worry about Ilorian.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Lorian's totally different. So, I
Okay.
think JD's view of Lorian, I think, you know, anyway, it's a little skewed, but
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, if we can differentiate between the top four there,
Okay.
that's the best, right? And the way to do that is so um, Glacier is largely a a robotics vendor
Mhm.
that has been on occasion
Mhm.
selling AI solutions,
Mhm.
but their AI solutions largely sort of the way that they're selling it is, hey, let me see if there's opportunities for robotics. Um,
Then I'll
in
tag on.
then I'll,
Mhm.
so it's like kind of
And
like
they have the big robots to you telling
yeah.
me that it's six.
So it's not really, like theirs is really tied to finding opportunities for robotic recovery
Mhm.
on a line, which is this is completely different, right? We're talking
Okay.
about an agent,
Got
an
it.
AI
Got it.
that assistant for a plant, right?
Yeah.
Plant operator. So I think it's like it's a very different sell.
Yeah.
Great Parrot
Yeah.
is probably our closest competitor
Mhm.
in this space. They're just doing AI and data, but they focus on analytics.
Mhm.
So their view is, okay, like, we're gonna deploy these vision systems and we're gonna give you really nice information about what's happening in your plant. And
Do they have or not have robots? Like, is
they,
that
Gray Parrot do not have any robots, yeah. And one of the angles that Gray Parrot also has is, hey, we're gonna focus on also give you information around brands
Mhm.
so that, hey, if the
Yes.
brand wants to fund some of this stuff, then they're able to fund
Right.
some of this stuff,
Right.
right?
So they've been doing work
Yeah.
with Unilever, and then they also have been making strides in their partnerships.
Yeah, so they've got a partnership with Van Dyke,
Mhm.
which I think is a good one because Van Dyke is a pretty reputable company and it helps them scale their sales.
Could
Um,
we partner with Van Dyke too, or
well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, probably not for the same thing, but
Mhm.
I think what we have to do is so where we differentiate ourselves with Navigator is it's really running the plant versus just giving you
insights?
pictures, right?
That says
Um,
not that close to us.
No, so in that sense, it's not. That's why we need to carve out that
Highlight that. Okay.
that space is that, okay, charts are nice and dashboards are nice and you can have this too, but there's a whole operational aspect of it. And because we make real-time AI and because our AI was developed for high-speed sortation equipment, it's real time, it's super high accurate, super flexible, and it can integrate into any equipment. We give you sort of a way to operate your plant.
Ours can integrate into any
Any
equipment.
equipment, yeah.
So they don't have to use our
They don't
robots.
have to use our robots. So we can
Still.
we can integrate into the existing belt systems. We can integrate into existing optical systems, not just robotics, right?
Okay, so I
Yeah.
sold a bundled solution, but no, it's
For the robot, yes, but for the navigator, we're gonna sell an AI. We're gonna sell vision systems with these four different modules,
it's
right?
getting clearer
Yeah.
and clearer. Okay.
So you can integrate it. So for example, one of the things that somebody might want to do is optical sorters, these pieces of equipment that uses the IR camera and sorts using air jets.
Yeah.
They have they're sensitive to the input of the material, right? And so, based on the inputs, for example, like we will start seeing optical sorter performance degrade when it's a rainy day. And that's because two things happen. One is the the um, the wet material degrades the reflection of the IR light back, so there's a lot less signal to noise going back into the IR detector. So it's accuracy for detecting objects go down, right? So you get like a lot of like inaccurate readings. The other thing that happens is like things like paper get heavier. So the little air jets that push them, they don't
Can't
push them far enough because now they're heavier, right? So what we can do is we can change if it's let's say we're detecting wet material coming in, we can change the presets of the optical sorter so that so we slow down the belt so the dwell time is longer so that there's more signal to noise on the IR so that it gets a better reading of the material. And also we can increase the air pressure onto the compressed onto the nozzle, and so it pushes it to the right place, right?
Okay.
So these are all settings that there's like 10, 20 different settings like this. We can change these settings based on what we're seeing. So we don't need to have our own, piece of equipment.
Robot
Yeah. And typically these people have like they never change the settings. They just once they get it, they just keep going and they live with whatever output they get. And if they need to rerun that material, they rerun that material,
That's their,
right?
okay, that's their process.
Yeah.
Okay, so then question here, the first four are for the recycling
Yeah.
industry. Those are interesting.
Yeah.
The remaining, are they interesting to investors? And backtracking, do you want me to focus on investors
Yes,
yet or?
yeah, I think not yet, right? So
Okay,
right
okay.
now, let's develop the messaging document
For
for the recyclers,
Okay,
and then the next one, then you'll have a clear idea of what we're delivering, and then I think we can say, okay, how do we apply that to
to investors.
outside of recycling? So a lot of these, like Foxglove is a tool. We don't need to worry about it. Light is a vision sensor only, right? NVIDIA, Ilorian's a
Right.
foundation model. So it's like these are not really like for like companies. These are just companies that have been able to generate a lot of interest
Uh-huh.
based
Yeah,
on
you said
how they
Foxglove.
position themselves, right? So it's not a
Foxglove,
competitor per se.
okay, got
Yeah.
it. Foxglove, you raised as an example of someone that's positioning well to investors
Yeah,
and
so
so.
if you think about
Okay.
what Foxglove is, like Foxglove is a tool for AI developers, and it's a video platform. So you just basically ingest all video that your robot is seeing into their platform, and they allow you to curate your videos, so that it feeds into either a training module, and then it also allows you to create tags on your video so that it gives an action to the robot, right? So, for
Okay.
example, if you see this, then here's a tag. This tag means, do this sort of a motion.
Uh-huh.
And so you're basically tagging videos with robot action. So it's
Okay.
just a developer tool, right?
Okay.
But the way that they've been able to talk about physical AI is very interesting. Even though they're not a robot or a physical AI company, they're developing a tool for physical AI. The way that they've been able to talk about it is very interesting, and they've been able to kind of get a pretty big, you know, funding round because of that, right?
Okay.
Same with light. Like light, all they make is a little camera with a LiDAR sensor on it,
Uh-huh.
But in a way that they're talking about it is, hey, all the data that we're collecting from this sensor that we're making, it has a direct integration with NVIDIA's Omniverse platform, and it's going to feed the data source. I mean, the data set for training robots,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So they've been able to take advantage of the fact that like there isn't a lot of data out there to train general purpose robots, and we're gonna make it easy for companies to do that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's a model. That's an interesting business model. Let's talk about moats. Then, so what's different about us that cannot be copied easily? So, relationship and trust with top MRFs.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we really have been able to cultivate great, like I said, we've got
Yeah.
a shit ton of experience going to these facilities, solving problems with them. So, like when I don't know who I was talking to about this, like they were asking like what's different now versus like when we started. Like when we started working with a couple of these companies, Republic, there was a lot of skeptics there, right? So we worked with this one guy, his name was Rob Taylor, and he liked us, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you guys in one or two plants just to prove it out." So from like kick the tires on the technology, we were able to pass all of the hurdles that he put in front of us, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna now introduce you to our corporate technology team, and they're gonna help you deploy these, operation technologies to these plants." So we're like, "Hey, great!" And so we went to this corporate technology team. We negotiated our contract, our pricing, our tech specs, all of this stuff, and then they said, "Okay, now work with these 10 people that are in charge of implementing operational technologies in these plants, and the 10 people have the country divided up into 10 regions, so each one is responsible for a region." But when we went to them, they're like, like, I got enough shit to do. Like, this is the no, I don't need to be disrupted by this. It was very hard to work with them initially, right? But then, like, they were kind of forced to work with us. And so it was pretty slow to go to a site with them and deploy, like do a site survey, put a proposal together, get them to sign off on the proposal. It was just like, it was like a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
Come today, they call us like twice a day, each of these guys.
Interesting.
Like, can you come to our plant? Like, this plant's having this problem. So,
Okay.
we go out there, we take a survey, we come up with a proposal. So they've become like a partner for us, right? And because of that, we have so much access to all of this operational know-how of these plants, right? So
Interesting.
not many people, I'd say nobody has that level of access to plants. I think
Among the
that's
competitors.
yeah, amongst the competitors, right?
It's
Um,
interesting. Okay. We need to encapsulate that. I'll figure out a way.
yeah,
Okay. So where, there was resistance at first and now there's a pull.
there's a pull for sure. Let me
Okay.
just send Ted a message saying I'm gonna be a little late.
If
How
you,
much more time do you want to
um,
spend?
I'd say 10 more minutes. That's it.
A little bit at a time, right?
10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll say 15, but 10 is fine.
Okay.
One second. I probably need to get some water.
Yeah.
The other one is, obviously our data set
Yeah.
is very unique, right? Um, um, I think the features of our AI,
Yeah.
at least our vision AI, is very unique as well in
Okay.
terms of the unstructured um, um,
Is it
identification.
a moat though? Is it something that no one else can do?
Well, I mean, with enough time and money, everybody can do everything, right? I don't
Mhm.
think so. How do you define a moat?
To me, it is something that's very difficult to copy.
Yeah, I'd say it's very difficult to copy.
Okay, so
Yeah,
unstructured. So this I got from you last time. Data set trained in the real world over
yeah.
7 years. Then unstructured what?
So a vision AI is, and the infrastructure for the vision AI is tailored towards identification of unstructured objects. So one thing is you need a ontology that can be very flexible, so that it can, once it sees new objects, it can restructure its outputs, right? So, for example, if you train a vision model, you have to train it exactly on what you're looking for, right? So, if you want the vision model to say this is a dog, you have to train it on thousands and thousands of pictures of a dog, and at that point, it shows you a dog. But then if you ask it,
A snake.
is this a snake? They won't know anything about a snake, right? So the ontology part of it is important. So
Understood.
for us, because we might be seeing new packaging types and new material types on an instant by instance basis, our ontology and our training methodology has to support that, right? So that's one part of unstructured. The second is the variability. So the amount of variability you see in an object in this use case, I mean, these are all under the same unstructured thing,
yeah.
right? So ontology, we deal with tremendous amount of variability. For example, like if you take something like self-driving car, right?
Yeah.
It's identifying probably 100 different things, right? Like, so this is a road marker, this is a stop sign, this is a stoplight, that's a person, this is a bike. But between one bike to another bike, another stop sign to another, it's very similar. So the variability doesn't exist as much, right? I mean, it needs to be like super accurate and super real time, but in terms of variability, it actually doesn't need to deal with that much variability.
But
We have to do, yeah, like, for us, it's like one object of the same class looks nothing like another object of the same class.
like a bottle could be
Yeah,
round,
like
it could be crumpled, or
crumple, it could be the exact, brand new. It could be, just half of a bottle. It could be a bottle occluded under something else. It could be all colored in something different. So
okay.
it's a very
That is a
difficult problem.
differentiator.
So these are all under unstructured, right? So
Okay.
how I would do it is, these are things that, oops, how do I do
Oops.
tab? Yeah. So variability, right? Another is imbalance of the data. Now, these are all technical terms, but for example, oops, one line may never see styrofoam, but another line see 98% styrofoam and 1% something else, right? The same model has to do an equal good job on either of these lines. So there's a lot of we have to deal with the data imbalance. So we have to fine tune a model very, very quickly based on the balance of the data in that, right? So we have to be able to curate the data set to train a new model
Okay.
very, very quickly based on that. So that's another
Okay.
difficult part about unstructured.
Yeah.
The amount of time we have to make a determination, right? So we have something like 10 to 15 milliseconds end-to-end pipeline before we have to make a determination on 100 different objects, right? Like again, if you go back to self-driving cars, their pipeline from detecting an object to making an action is about 100 milliseconds. So, and they're using state-of-the-art models, right? So we have to do that in 10th of a time. So there's a lot of difficulty in making a model work in this sort of an unstructured environment. So that is a mode. I mean, if Google spent, a bunch of, 100 engineers and 1 year to do it and put a bunch of research, sure, they could do it, right? But like who's, like it's not a, it's,
Yeah. Is there any other mode that is, so that's the technology
Yeah.
stuff. Is there anything like either patent or, like an academic citation that perhaps the founders have?
We filed like for 3 patents, but I don't know that they're really all that enforceable, like
Not anymore.
yeah.
But it can, in the mind of the customer, it can create some credibility.
Yeah.
So
I would say this is AI infrastructure to deal with. Oops.
I'll
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So 3 patents, and then do the founders have any kind of PhDs?
So Anish comes from this world, and Ravi, I mean, those are the two guys who sort of built most of this stuff.
Okay. Ravi was the engineer that I met.
Yeah, so Ravi comes from sort of a self-driving car background. So he built all the systems. And then Anish comes from robotics.
Okay.
And he built all the AI.
Okay.
So between those two guys, they built the
Okay.
system that we have. But I don't know that we can really call that a moat, Yeah, I think, from our like I think you captured our business model and our focus on performance.
Yeah.
That's another reason why we win a lot of these projects.
Yeah. And there is significant amount of customization, right?
Yeah.
So that makes it sticky. Okay. Okay. So I think this is plenty to
Start with.
get, yes, some material going. So I was looking at data sheets. You already have a sales presentation.
Yeah.